Start game now.
Howard, how we doing? How you doing, big guy? Hey, me and some of the big wigs at Atari. Well, we have a very important announcement for you. Great news. We just got done with a deal with Universal. We're going to make a game on E.T. It's going to be great. We had to spend a bit of money, like 25 million, but it's going to be awesome. And we are trusting you with it because you did such a great job with Yar's Revenge and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Hey, even Steven Spielberg likes you. How about that, big boy? So yeah, just do your great thing. You know what you did with the other two games. It's going to be great. Hey, you do a good job. We'll give you lots of money. Send you to Hawaii. It'll be awesome. Take the kids. It'll be great. All right. So yeah. Before I forget, and you got 5 weeks to do it. Okay. Bye. Yeah, I wonder if that is how the first meeting with the Atari executives and the designer Howard Scott Warshaw went when they came up with Atari's E.T. the Extra Terrestrial, based on the smash hit movie of the 80s. Like the silver design, it looks very epic, at least from the label. That is, that image right there. If you are a kid who grew up in the 80s, that's going to be kind of iconic to you. There's nothing like, Elliot and E.T. on the label here. So E.T. the Extraterrestrial is considered by many to be the worst game of all time, and we are going to find out today if it is just that bad. There is a bit of a backstory to this game, a very interesting history. Yeah, Atari did spend a lot of money. They did give the developer a very short time to turn it around. He took on the challenge, and many people said that in the end he failed. And many people actually say that E.T. is the reason why the crash of the early 80s happened. I don't know if I fully believe it. E.T. was a good seller for Atari, one of the top 10 by far, sold over 1.5 million copies. The only problem is they decided to make 5 million. So, oops, got an extra, couple million in a warehouse somewhere. And rumor has it that they took all the extra copies and put it in a dump in New Mexico. And one of the reasons why I'm reviewing this game today is because later in this month, it is April 2014, they are going to have a dig. They are making a documentary. They're going to do a dig, and they've had a lot of permits and a little bit of red tape here and there, but they're actually going to do a dig where they're inviting the public, and they're going to dig up the landfill to see what they find. Now, I'm sure some people imagine that there is just a ton of ET cartridges neatly stacked by the millions. The truth probably is somewhere that ET, as well as a bunch of other unsold Atari stock, got crushed, put in the dump, and covered with concrete. That's probably the true story. So what they dig up may look nothing like this. Who knows? They might get something that clearly resembles Atari stuff, but it might look very nasty, dirty, and very hard to tell that it is an Atari game or system or whatever they dig up. It will be interesting to see what they did. There were rumors back originally that kids were going into the landfill and pulling out Atari stuff, so they covered it with concrete. We will see exactly what happens with this documentary. But for now, let's find out if E.T. is really as bad as everybody says it is. So I'm going to pop this in my Atari 7800 and plug in my Sega Genesis 6-button controller, because if you want to play an Atari 2600 game right, you're going to play it in an Atari 7800 with the Sega 6-button controller plugged into it. We're going to pop this in and just see how bad E.T. really is. Elliot. Quick, name 10 Atari 2600 games with a dedicated title screen. Can you do it? Yeah, maybe you can, but most of us couldn't, at least not right away. Most Atari games did not have a dedicated title screen. They just showed an image of the game you're about to play. But E.T. actually has what I think one of the best title screens there is. You can clearly tell that this is E.T., and it has that iconic music, that theme song going on. I think out of the 5 weeks, 2 weeks were probably spent just on the title screen, and it is really good. but we're here to play the game. So let's see how the game is. Now, in E.T., you are E.T. Your goal is to go home, just like the movie. And in order to do so, you have to first build a phone. So you have to go around and you have to find 3 pieces of your phone. And once you find the 3 pieces of your phone, you have to find an area where you can call your ship. And then once you call your ship, you have to go to the area where the ship is actually going to land, which is a different area. Sounds simple, but there's some things thrown in the mix. First of all, you have a couple guys chasing you in the main portion of the game. One is an FBI agent. If the FBI agent catches you, he will take away anything you have in your inventory, any pieces of the phone you have, and any Reese's Pieces you collected. You can actually collect Reese's Pieces in this game as well. There's also a scientist. If he catches you, he will take you back to his science lab. It's just like a short detainment. You'll be able to quickly escape as well. And then of course there's the pits or the wells, and we'll get to that in a moment. Now, the first thing that confuses a lot of people in ET is the world itself. It is comprised of 6 screens, but it's kind of like a cube. Think of a 6-sided die, and that is basically the world of ET. It is easy for people to get lost and get confused if they don't know where they're going. It does take a bit to get used to. On one screen you have the forest. That is where you land with your ship and where the ship will pick you up. On another completely different side, you have what is Washington, D.C., which has the area where the FBI agent comes out of. It has the laboratory, and it has Elliot's house. And then the rest of the 4 screens have all these wells or pits that you have to fall into to find your pieces of phone. Now, speaking of the pits, there is a lot of them, and you're going to find yourself falling into them a ton. So much so that they could have called this game Pitfall. Atari humor, or at least Pitfall ET edition. That would have been a cool collaboration. Actually, that title Pitfall fits this game better than it does the Atari Classic, because as I said, you will fall a lot and you will have to work your way out of it. Now, ET has a health meter, but it's more of a numeric health meter. You start out with like almost 10,000, and as you walk around, you lose some energy. As you run, if you hold down the button on the screen, you will run. You will lose energy as well. And if you fall down into a pit, you'll lose energy. And if you try and levitate out of it, you will lose energy getting out of it as well. So you're constantly losing energy. Your goal is to collect all the phone pieces and get back to your ship before you run out of energy. However, the game does give you chances to earn energy. On each of the pit levels, there's a little green dot that is a Reese's Pieces. You can collect it, and if you find the right spot on the screen, you can eat it and get some energy that way. Also, if you do die, run out of energy, Elliot, if you remember the movie Elliot, kind of touches ET and he regains strength. Elliot will come and touch you, and you will regain strength and be able to continue a few times. They let you do it a few times, but then after a while, you will not get a chance to do it again. Now, one important aspect of the gameplay is that you'll notice on every screen there are icons wherever you walk, and each icon represents a different thing, where if you push a button on that icon, it'll do the appropriate action. For instance, you'll see arrows pointing up, down, left, and right. If you stand on one of those arrows and push the button for ET, you will automatically transport to the next screen, up, down, left, or right. Seems simple enough. Also, there is a question mark icon. If you push the button on the question mark icon and there is a puzzle piece in one of the pits on that level, you'll see a flashing light. If there's no puzzle pieces, no flashing light, but if there is, you will see the flashing light. There is also an icon that looks like a series of columns. Now, if you are on that icon and one of the bad guys are chasing you and you push the button there, ET would kind of do his little growl and the guys will run back. And they'll go back home to where they came from. Also, there is an Elliot icon. Now, this one is kind of interesting. If you do it, you call Elliot. I had trouble getting him to show up sometimes. But if you do it and you have less than 9 Reese's Pieces, he will take your candy and you will get points for that. If you have 9, he will take your candy and he will come back with a missing piece that you're still searching for if you still have those pieces. And this is how you score points in the game, is by the amount of candy you give to Elliot, the amount of candy you have if you defeat the game, and how much energy you left over at the end of the game. There will be a score and it will tell you how well you did. Now, the problem again with ET is it gets confusing sometimes, and the characters are constantly chasing you. So let's say you get all the phone pieces. Now somewhere in the world, only on one screen, only in one spot, there's this symbol. It kind of looks like a frog to me, but it's the ship. You have to go there and call the ship. And then after you do that, you'll see a timer on the screen, and you'll have to go back to the forest level and find the target area and hope that no one catches you before you get there. If you are not on the target area when the timer runs down, you miss your ride home and you'll have to try again. But if you are there, the ship will come down, pick you up, and voila, you won the game. Congratulations, you defeated E.T. Now, this is actually a pretty difficult game, at least in the normal setting. In the normal setting, these guys, the FBI agent and the scientists, are constantly showing up and constantly touching you. They're very hard to avoid, and if you avoid them, you end up running away and falling into a pit very easy. It's very, very easy. It's one of the bugs in the game. You fall in the pits very easily. Here's a little tip for you. When you float out of the pit, pull down instead of going up. I found that much more easier, especially the pit's going from left to right, that if you pull down after you get above it. Sound confusing? Yeah, see, it is. It takes a little bit of getting used to. And so I found myself in the game in the normal portion to constantly be losing my phone pieces. As soon as I got some, that FBI agent would be right on my tail. Now, you can jump in the pits to avoid them if you wait a while and you come back up. Sometimes they're gone, but sometimes the other guy's there waiting for you. Also, it's kind of funny, in the manual, it tells you if you want to pause the game, you know what you do? Fall in a pit and stay there. That's right. It tells you that's how you pause E.T. is by falling into a pit. How many games tell you to fall into a pit to pause the game? Well, E.T. does. Now, there are two other variations of the game. In the first variation, you have all the guys chasing you. In the second variation, only the FBI agent chases you, which is supposed to make things a little bit easier. And it kind of does, because when you avoid him, you don't have to worry about running into the other guy right away. There's only one guy that's going to appear on screen at a time chasing you. So it makes it a little easier, but he still is pesky and still takes those pieces away from you. And in the last variation, the easiest one, there are no FBI guys chasing you. You can just kind of go at your own leisure. Try not to run out of energy and fall in the pits. I also forgot to mention that in one of the pits, you will find a dead flower. If you go to it and raise your head at the specially smiley face icon, you will actually get an extra chance. Elliot will come back to you one extra time to revive you if you do pass away. Now, graphically, E.T. is a little bit of a mixed bag. I think the characters look great. For an Atari game, you can tell who the FBI agent is, you can tell who the scientist guy is, you can tell who Elliot is. They all look really good. The pits, they're pits. I mean, they really don't look that fantastic. E.T. looks good. The icons, I think they're serviceable once you understand what they're doing. So the characters look good. The rest of the stuff, not so much. Musically, I thought the theme is great. That plays at the beginning and the end. During the game, there is no music. There's sound effects, and they do the job. You know, you have I find it funny that when E.T. kind of raises his head on an icon, it sounds like he's kind of growling, going roar, which he doesn't really do, but it's kind of cute. You'll love his little footprint sounds. You'll probably end up hating the pit falling sound when you fall into the pit, because you'll just hear it so much. It is a very family-friendly game, probably one of the least violent games, because E.T. never fights back. He runs away. He might growl at them to make them go away, but he will never, ever fight back. So it's a very family-friendly game in that aspect. E.T. can die, and he turns into this like white little E.T. guy. And after a while, you will stay that way if you don't succeed. It is kind of funny, though, that when he does die, you can move him kind of left to right. He's like doing a dead man boogie there. It's kind of strange. But yeah, but other than that, it's a pretty family-friendly game. I do actually think this game is better than it gets credit for. I don't think it is that bad. I could name a lot of games worse than E.T. I can name a whole lot more better, but I could name a lot of games worse than that. So where would I rank E.T.? Well, I've looked at 4 games so far. It is definitely better than Tax Avoiders for the Atari 2600. Not a very hard challenge. If there's, let me just stop right here for a second. If there's any reason for the crash, in my belief, not only is it because Atari mismanaged some of their business aspects, making more games than they should have, when it came to games like Pac-Man and E.T., where they sold well, but they just made way too many. If there's anything, it's all the shovelware that came out at the end of the lifespan of the Atari. Well, the main lifespan. Atari actually went on quite a while, but it's all the shovelware that came out in the early 80s, like Tax Avoiders. It just seemed like everyone and their mother was making a game, and you couldn't really rent games. There wasn't a Blockbuster. I'm sure some places did, but most places did not. So you just kind of bought games, and it cost a bit of money to invest in them, and you just basically went on the box art. You didn't have website reviews. You didn't have a lot of magazine coverage. You just went on the box art. I'm sure a lot of people got duped into buying bad games because the box art was halfway decent, or at least different enough from the Atari game. I think it was shovelware like Tax Avoiders that really caused the crash, that left a bad taste in people's mouths. Not necessarily E.T. and Pac-Man, even though some of them, they did leave it. There's, 1.5 million people bought the game and kept it, and you can still find it all over the place. So anyways, where would I rank this game? I would put it above Tax Avoiders. I really struggled thinking about Bubsy, because Bubsy can be fun too. But the thing about E.T. is I put it in, and by the time I was done playing it for the review, a half hour went by and I didn't realize it. At first, it was frustrating. At first, I realized why people hate the game so much, but then I got up to the challenge. I started to figure things out, and I actually enjoyed it, and I was actually like, you know what? I think I can do this. I think I can beat the main game. I didn't beat the main game in that 30 minutes, but I felt like, you know what? A little practice and a little luck, I might do this. So I'm actually going to put E.T. above Bubsy for the Sega Genesis, right in the 3 spot, right there. I think it is definitely not the worst game and definitely not the best game, but it can have some enjoyment. So if you are looking for E.T. for the Atari 2600, you can find a loose copy on eBay fairly cheap. I'm saying about $4 to $5 should have it shipped to your home. If you want it complete, about double that should find you a copy. Double 5, that would be 10. So about $10 you should be able to find a copy. But here's the deal with ET, so many of them. If you want it, you buy a lot of games here and there of Atari games, and it's bound to be mixed into about half the lots you see. So if you want a bunch of Atari games, odds are you'll stumble into an ET, whether you're buying a system with a bunch of games or just a group of Atari games by themselves. So overall, ET is not as bad as everybody seems to say it is. I think it just has such a bad reputation that it's left such a bad taste. Just the reputation precedes it, and that is why that you say ET and people automatically think bad game, because it's been drilled into people's head that ET is a bad game. Tax Avoiders is a bad game. ET is an okay game. All right. So there you go. ET. Yes, I am the No Swear Gamer. Yes, I am standing up for ET. Can you believe it? Not the best game, but there's definitely a lot worse. So try it out sometime if you find it in a group of games and see what you think. As soon as you avoid those pits, and you will hit them a lot. Anyways, once again, this is a No Swear Gamer. If you enjoy retro reviews, would you please like the video and subscribe? I would appreciate it. So telling everyone, have a great day. Thanks for taking the time to watch this, and I will see you next time.